Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Martin was on the porch of his home office when he noticed something he'd never seen before. 15 years of marriage to Vanessa had been marked by an almost ceremonial routine of perfection. She was a professional organizer, one of the most sought after in the area, known for turning her clients' chaos into flawless systems of order and control. Their own home was the perfect showroom of her philosophy. Every object had its place, every drawer a specific purpose, every surface free of any trace of disorder. Martin, at 41, had long grown accustomed to living within that meticulous structure. As an architect, he appreciated the visual discipline Vanessa brought into their lives. But that Tuesday morning, something was different. He'd come home early from a cancelled meeting and found the house empty. Nothing unusual about that. Vanessa often had client consultations. What caught his attention was her planner, left on the kitchen counter. Vanessa never forgot anything. It was practically pathological the other way around. Martin picked up the planner, intending only to put it somewhere more appropriate, when he noticed it was open to the current week's page. There were notes in her perfect handwriting, appointments, meetings, workshops. All perfectly normal. Until Martin remembered seeing Vanessa consult a different planner a few weeks earlier, a digital one on her tablet. Out of curiosity, he grabbed her tablet, still connected to their home network, and opened the calendar app. The appointments didn't match. The paper planner showed a 10 a.m. meeting with a client named Patricia, but the digital calendar listed residential organizing session, Mr. Davidson, for the same time. Martin felt a strange pang in his chest. Maybe it was just a sync error, he thought. But something in him, that instinct that rarely failed him on projects when something wasn't right, made him dig deeper. He opened the car's location history, a feature they'd both installed years ago for security and had never turned off. Martin was certain Vanessa didn't even remember it was active. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. For the past 8 weeks, every Tuesday and Thursday, Vanessa's car had spent hours parked at the same address. It wasn't the home of any known client. Martin copied the address and pasted it into Google Maps. It was a high-end condominium complex, residential towers with 24-hour security, a gym, a heated pool. The kind of place where single, successful people usually lived. His throat went dry. It could just be a new client, he tried convincing himself. But then why 2 different planners? Why the inconsistency? Martin decided he needed certainty. He couldn't confront Vanessa based only on assumptions and coincidences. She was too smart, too organized. If he accused her without solid proof, she could easily invent plausible explanations, and he'd never know the truth. So the next morning, Wednesday, Martin cancelled his appointments for the day and prepared to do something he never imagined he'd do, follow his own wife. Vanessa left the house at 9:15, as always, immaculate in her gray blazer and black pants, hair pulled into a perfect bun. She got into her white SUV and drove out of the garage. Martin waited a few seconds, then followed in his own car, keeping a safe distance. She drove for about 20 minutes through residential neighborhoods, until she finally parked in front of a 2-story house. A middle-aged woman greeted her at the door. Vanessa went inside with her work briefcase. Martin breathed a sigh of relief. Just a normal job. But he decided to wait. He parked 3 houses down and watched. Vanessa came out 90 minutes later, waved to the client, and got back in her car. But instead of heading to her next appointment or going home, she drove in the opposite direction. Martin followed again, his heart racing. She drove another 15 minutes and entered the exact condominium complex Martin had seen in the car's location history. She passed through the gate without stopping, like someone who was expected. Martin parked across the street where he could see the entrance. And then he waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Martin felt a tightening in his chest grow with every passing minute. He took his phone and snapped photos of her car parked there, making sure the timestamp was visible. At 2:40 in the afternoon, Vanessa finally came out of the building. But she wasn't alone. A man walked beside her to the car, tall, salt and pepper hair, expensive suit. They were chatting animatedly. When they reached her SUV, the man pulled her by the waist and kissed her. It wasn't a casual goodbye kiss. It was long, intimate, familiar. Martin felt like he'd been punched in the gut. His hands shook as he took photo after photo. Vanessa got in her car and drove off. The man stood in the parking lot, watching her car disappear, a smile on his face. Martin noted the license plate of the black Mercedes parked nearby, betting it was his. Then he drove home, feeling numb, as if trapped in a bad dream. When he arrived, he went straight to his computer and started investigating. He cross-referenced the condo address with public records. He discovered the apartment belonged to a certain Gregory Davidson, 52 years old, an executive at an investment firm, divorced for 3 years. The same name that appeared in Vanessa's digital calendar. Martin spent the rest of the afternoon and the entire night gathering information. He accessed the joint bank account statements. He found several transfers Vanessa had made to her personal account, always in round figures, $1,000 here, $2,000 there. In the past 6 months, they totaled more than $20,000. He'd never questioned it before, assuming they were for business expenses. Vanessa had always managed their household finances, and Martin, focused on his projects, rarely reviewed statements in detail. She'd counted on that trust. But now, looking more closely, he noticed the dates coincided with purchases at jewelry stores, high-end men's clothing boutiques, and expensive restaurants, all the day after those transfers. On Thursday, Martin hired a private investigator. He explained the situation, provided all the data he had, and paid extra for urgency. The investigator promised results within 48 hours. Martin barely slept the next 2 nights. Vanessa continued her usual routine, impeccable as always, preparing elaborate dinners, organizing areas of the house that were already perfectly arranged, talking about her clients and their clutter issues with the same passion as always. Martin watched her every move, every word, searching for signs he'd missed during all those months. Saturday morning, the investigator called. He had everything. Photos of Vanessa entering and leaving the condo on at least 8 different occasions over the past 2 weeks. Photos of her and Davidson dining at restaurants, always in discreet corners. One particularly revealing photo showed them entering a boutique hotel downtown. The investigator had also uncovered something else. Davidson had a history. Through social media research, professional records, and discreet conversations with people in his social circle, the investigator found patterns. There were vague mentions in online forums and groups of women who'd worked for him and become emotionally involved. Always married women, service providers like organizers, decorators, and consultants. Vanessa wasn't the first. It was a repeating behavioral pattern. But there was more. The investigator had cross-referenced public records and discovered that Davidson had been making regular transfers into Vanessa's personal account, labeled as consulting services. $10,000 a month, amounts that didn't align with the standard market rate for professional organizing. Martin double-checked her personal account statements, which he had access to through their joint tax filings, and there they were, monthly deposits, always on the 5th. Martin felt anger rising inside him. This wasn't just an emotional affair. It was a financial arrangement. She was monetizing the betrayal. Martin spent Sunday organizing everything. He printed every photo, every bank statement, every location record. He arranged them chronologically in a clear folder, divided into sections: visual evidence, financial evidence, and a complete timeline. He used the same meticulousness Vanessa applied to her organizing projects. There was a poetic irony in that, not lost on him, the organizer exposed by perfect organization. Monday morning, Vanessa woke up at 6, as always. She did her morning routine, yoga, green smoothie, agenda review. Martin pretended everything was normal, sipping coffee and reading news on his tablet. When Vanessa announced she had a 9 a.m. consultation, Martin just nodded. As soon as she left, he took the folder he'd prepared and placed it right in the center of the dining table, the spot where Vanessa always arranged the flower bouquets she changed weekly. Then Martin waited. Vanessa returned at 5:30 that evening. He heard her come in through the garage, place her keys on the designated hook, take off her shoes, and put them in the hallway closet. He heard her footsteps approaching the dining room. And then he heard silence. Martin sat in the armchair in the living room, where he could see Vanessa standing in front of the table, staring at the folder. She was pale. With slightly trembling hands, she opened it. Martin watched as she flipped through the pages, one by one. He saw the exact moment she realized the extent of what he knew. He saw her reaction when she reached the photos of her with Davidson. He saw her expression as she read the bank statements, annotated in red pen by Martin. Martin, her voice was weak, almost inaudible. 6 months, Vanessa. 6 months you've kept this up. And it would have gone on if I hadn't stumbled on your 2 planners by accident. He kept his voice calm and controlled, though inside he felt like he was falling apart. He'd mentally rehearsed this moment for days, but nothing had prepared him for watching the woman he loved crumble before him. I can explain. She took a step toward him, but Martin raised his hand, signaling her to stop. Explain? Explain that you're being paid $10,000 a month for consulting services? Explain the expensive jewelry you bought for him with money from our joint account? Or maybe explain why you needed 2 planners, one to show me, and another with the truth. He pointed to the folder on the table. It's all in there. Every lie. Every transaction. Every moment you chose him over me, over our marriage. It's all documented, Vanessa. Chronologically organized, with an index and everything. Just the way you'd do it. Vanessa let the folder drop onto the table. Her hands covered her face. I didn't plan this. I swear, Martin. It started as just a job. He was just another client. Gregory Davidson. 52 years old. Divorced. With a history of getting involved with married women who work for him. Did you know you're not the first professional organizer he's hired? There's a pattern. He picks smart, successful, married women. And you fell right into his scheme. She looked at him, eyes wide. How did you? Private investigator. He's very good. He found out in 2 days more than you managed to hide in 6 months. Martin stood and walked to the table. He picked up one of the photos, the one of the kiss in the parking lot. This isn't a mistake, Vanessa. It's not a moment of weakness. It's 6 months of deliberate choices. 6 months of lies. How many times did you come home after being with him and kiss me? How many times did you sit at this table and tell me about your day while leaving out the hours you spent in his bed? Martin, please, tears began streaming down her face. I still love you. I know I ruined everything, I know, but please, can we talk about this? Can we try to fix it? Fix it? Martin laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You've built an entire career teaching people to bring order into their lives, to be honest about what they need and don't need. And all this time, your own life has been one big lie. You know what's the saddest part? I would have accepted it if you'd come to me and said you weren't happy. If you'd told me you wanted to separate. But you chose this. You chose to betray me, deceive me, and worse, you stole from me. Because that's what you did, Vanessa. You took our money and used it to buy gifts for your lover. Vanessa collapsed into a chair. I'll end it with him. Today. Right now, if you want. I'll pay back the money. Everything. I swear, Martin. Just give me a chance to fix this. Martin put the photo back in the folder and closed it. I've already spoken to a lawyer. The divorce papers should reach you by the end of the week. And before you try to negotiate, you should know there's more. Her face went even paler, if that was possible. More? Davidson isn't married on paper, but he's been in a serious relationship for a year. A woman named Patricia. Funny, isn't it? The same name you used as a fake client in your paper planner. She doesn't know about you, just like I didn't know. I contacted her today. I figured she deserved to know the truth. I imagine she'll want to talk to you. And considering she's a lawyer who specializes in financial fraud cases, you might want to have your own legal representation in order. Vanessa was trembling now. You told her? You ruined. I ruined it? Me? Martin's voice finally showed anger. You ruined our marriage. You ruined 15 years of trust. You ruined the image I had of you, the woman I thought I knew. Don't put that on me, Vanessa. I just brought the truth to light. And yes, I told Patricia. She deserved to know, just like I did. Neither of us deserve to be deceived by the two of you. He walked to the door and picked up the jacket he'd left on the back of the sofa. I'll stay at a hotel for the next few days. You can stay in the house until we settle the asset division. But I want you to know one thing, Vanessa. You built a brand, a reputation, based on order and honesty. Organize your life, organize your future, isn't that your slogan? How many of your clients will still want to hire someone who can't even organize her own personal life? How many will trust you once they find out you're capable of lying so easily? You won't. Martin, my career. You can't. I won't do anything. I don't need to. Patricia's already talking to her friends. Davidson, apparently, has an ex-wife who never got over their divorce and loves a good gossip. In a town where reputation is everything, how long do you think it'll take for this to spread? You always said word of mouth is the best marketing. Well, it works both ways. Martin opened the door. He turned one last time to look at the woman he'd shared more than a decade of his life with. She sat there, shattered, shoulders slumped, all that polished perfection cracked and falling to pieces. For a brief moment, he almost felt pity. But then he remembered the photos, the lies, the months of deliberate betrayal. You know what's ironic, Vanessa? All these years, I always admired your organizing skills. The way you could categorize everything, put everything in its proper place. But you forgot to organize one thing, your priorities. You chose money and excitement over respect and honesty. I hope it was worth it. And with that, Martin walked out, closing the door behind him with a soft, final click. He didn't slam it. He didn't need to. That quiet click said everything that needed to be said. In the months that followed, the divorce moved faster than usual. Vanessa didn't contest any of the terms. Martin kept the house, she accepted a smaller share of the assets in exchange for less public exposure. But exposure came anyway. Davidson's ex-wife, as Martin had predicted, wasted no time spreading the story through her social circle, which overlapped significantly with Vanessa's. Clients began canceling contracts. New clients simply stopped showing up. 3 months after the separation, Martin ran into Patricia, Davidson's girlfriend, or rather, ex-girlfriend, at a coffee shop. She recognized him immediately. Martin? I'm Patricia. We've never formally met, but I know who you are. How are you? She gave a sad smile. Surviving. I broke up with Greg last week. I found out there was more. A lot more. He has a pattern, just like you said. I should have seen the signs. None of us should have to look for signs. We should be able to trust the people we love. True. She was quiet for a moment. Did you know she lost almost all her clients? Vanessa, I mean. I heard she's thinking about moving to another state, starting over from scratch. Martin nodded. He'd already heard the rumors. She made her choices. And Greg's being investigated for tax issues. Apparently, those consulting payments he made to her and others weren't properly declared. The IRS is very interested. I gave them all the information I had. I thought you'd want to know. A small smile appeared on Martin's face. Thanks for telling me. 6 months later, Martin was in his new home, a modern downtown loft he'd designed himself. It was smaller than their old house, but it was his alone, without bitter memories clinging to the walls. He stood on the balcony watching the sunset when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Martin? It's Vanessa. Her voice sounded different. Smaller. Tired. There was a long silence. Martin considered hanging up, but something made him stay on the line. What do you want, Vanessa? I just wanted you to know I'm truly sorry. I ruined everything. I lost you, my business, my reputation. And it was all my fault. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. Martin looked toward the horizon. He felt something, but it wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't pain. It was almost indifference. I heard what you said. But apologies don't change what happened. They don't bring back lost time or broken trust. I wish you luck, Vanessa. Honestly. But this call needs to be the last one. I've moved on. You should too. I'm trying. It's been hard. Everything unraveled so fast. Greg used me, Martin. He had a scheme, I know. And you chose to go along with it. You were an adult, Vanessa. You made choices. Bad choices. And now you're dealing with the consequences. Just like I had to deal with the consequences of your choices. The difference is, I wasn't the one who betrayed. I wasn't the one who lied. So no, I'm not going to sit here listening to you try to blame someone else. You need to take full responsibility. He heard her sob on the other end. You're right. You've always been right. I'm so sorry, Martin. For everything. I know. Goodbye, Vanessa. Martin hung up. Blocked the number. Then turned his gaze back to the sunset. The city stretched out before him, full of possibilities, new beginnings, and paths not yet taken. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of months of anguish finally starting to lift. It hadn't been easy. There were still days when the pain was sharp, when the betrayal still burned like an open wound. But he'd survived. He'd refused to let what she did define or destroy him. His career was flourishing, new projects, new clients, a new partner who shared his vision. He'd started dating again, not seriously yet, but the possibility was there. He'd learned something valuable through all that pain: you can't control other people's actions, only your own responses. And he'd chosen to respond with dignity, with strength, without stooping to her level. Vanessa, he later learned through mutual acquaintances, had indeed moved away, to another state where no one knew her story. She'd started working as an assistant at an organizing company, not as a business owner anymore, but as an employee. Davidson was facing serious legal trouble, not just tax-related, but also involving other women who'd come forward with similar stories. His company was under investigation. Martin felt no pleasure in that. It wasn't revenge he'd sought, it was justice. And justice, he discovered, sometimes comes naturally, as an inevitable consequence of wrong actions. He hadn't needed to destroy Vanessa. She'd destroyed herself the moment she chose dishonesty over integrity. As night fell over the city, Martin went back inside his loft. A new project waited on his work desk, a commercial building that would be his biggest challenge yet. He smiled, picked up his drafting tools, and got to work. The past was past. The future was waiting, not organized by a neurotic obsession with surface-level perfection, but by honesty, hard work, and the ability to learn from mistakes, even when those mistakes belonged to someone else. And that, Martin realized, was the kind of organization that truly mattered. Not perfectly arranged drawers or meticulously planned schedules, but inner, moral order that lets a person look in the mirror and see someone of integrity looking back. Vanessa had lost that. Martin had kept it. And in the end, that made all the difference. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.